Welcome to the Real Nine Podcast. I'm Dungeon Dan.
And I'm Creepy Uncle Kevin. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be discussing the movie Dead and Buried that came out in 1981. Dan, if you want to give us a brief plot synopsis.
Dead and Buried. A small coastal town is experiencing a rash of murder. Town sheriff is trying to figure out what who's doing all the murders. And that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Short synopsis. Not much more. I just would have just jumped into the show.
Okay. Well, what kind of rating would you give this out of 5 stars, Dan?
Okay. For me, it's a solid 3.5 out of 5. It is a good movie. It's not a great movie. But it's something I would watch if there was nothing else playing and I came across this on my streaming, I would hit this movie.
Well, I would also give it a 3.5. Again, it's just there's a few too many plot holes to give it the solid 4. Even though I saw this movie when I was fairly young, and it really stuck out to me because I thought the whole scenario of, again, it's a mystery, so you don't know what's going on, and we're going to talk about the reveal later in the show. But just the thought of the townsfolk gathering together and murdering strangers that come into the town and take photographs of them, I thought was really horrific because I didn't understand. It seemed so planned and unmotivated that I thought it was kind of horrifying. And the way they killed them was particularly nasty, especially the first opening kill. But I also gave it 3.5 for the film. A little bit about the production. This movie was written by Robert Shusett and Dan O'Bannon. This was written before they made Alien. They did the script for Alien, and then once Alien came out, and it was such a hit, people came to them and asked if they had anything else written, and they actually did, called Dead and Buried. They then hired the director Gary Sherman to make this movie. He had made the film Deathline in 1972, also known as Raw Meat. That was the film that starred Donald Pleasance. Took place in the subways in London. I believe it was, like a mining group or something. There was a cave-in, and
there was a collapse while they were building the subway, and this is the inbred cannibalistic family of survivors.
They're inbred too?
Well, I would imagine.
I mean, because it's London.
I haven't seen the movie because it's London. No, I haven't seen the movie for a while, but I from what I can remember, there are some not so old, cannibals running amok. So right. I imagine they breeded somehow.
Yeah, they stayed in there.
Yeah, because the cave-in was supposed to be like, back when they started this thing, which would have been at least 50 years, I think. But I don't know. We'll have to do a show on that where I can watch it again.
Right. So anyway, he made that movie, and wasn't until like 8 or 9 years later. He made a couple of TV movies in between, but then he got the gig for Dead and Buried. Just to briefly go over his career after that, he made Vice Squad, which was a pretty good dramatic thriller, I guess, with Wings Hauser as a pimp. He also made Wanted Dead or Alive with Rutger Hauer, Poltergeist 3, and then the sort of thriller called Lisa in 1990. And after that,
never seen that.
Teaching film school at, I believe it's Columbia University.
Okay.
So what's weird about it, too, is that I guess the original screenplay and the way they shot the movie was as a dark comedy, which I don't see any aspects of in the film.
I don't even see how you would make any comedy in this particular story. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, moody murder mystery.
Right. So, yeah, the director's cut was a comedy, and the studio that purchased it to distribute it after the success of the films like Friday the 13th in 1980, they actually had him go back to add gore to the film and bring Stan Winston back, which obviously is a wise decision. Otherwise, I don't think the movie would have horrified me as a kid.
No, Stan Winston did some amazing makeup effects for this film. Including a transformation sequence that I, to this day, will go back and watch and rewatch. It's amazing how they did it. But this movie also had a big old cast. Some young actors that we know from many other things, and an old actor that we knew from a lot of things. Let me bring you up a picture.
Sure. Okay. Right. In that picture over on the left, we have James Ferrantino as Sheriff Dan Gillis.
Mm-hmm.
You may have known him from Dynasty. I never watched Dynasty, but I think
That
he was on that
me
show for
either.
like 11 years. Over on the right-hand side, we have Freddy Krueger.
Robert Englund.
And,
He played a great character in this film.
right.
You know, he was kind of, it's like maybe some of the comedy would have been written for that character. He's almost like Mayberry's Goober. You know,
It is. There's a bit
he's
part.
likable and has some not funny lines, but I guess he would be the comic relief.
Also in the movie, we have playing his wife is Melody Anderson, who also was in Flash Gordon. And then, oh, as you were mentioning, the person that plays the mortician was Jack Albertson, right?
Jack Albertson, there he is, right there.
Grandpa.
And Grandpa Joe.
He does a fantastic job, and I guess this was his last feature film that he was in. People were saying that he was actually really suffering from cancer during the production, but he did make it to the world premiere. Came in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank.
Wow.
He was a real
Because, you
trooper.
know, when you watch the movie, there's no hint that he's that ill. He
Right.
just looks like, I mean, obviously he looks old, but he looks like he's in his heyday, man.
Yeah.
I love that. I've always loved that actor. I grew up with him in the 70s on a show called Chico and the Man, where he starred with Freddie Prinze and Scatman Crothers. If you don't remember who he is, think The Shining. He's
Sure.
the poor bastard that took an axe to the chest. Shit, let's talk makeup effects.
Sure.
My favorite subject. Stan Winston. You know, Stan Winston started out working at Disney as the assistant makeup guy. You know, and he would do the makeup on like the Disney's Halloween special where he'd make Jonathan Winters into a pumpkin or something. But being a special makeup effects artist, you know, in the 80s, you know, that's when you started doing the real gore, the real detail work. And he did some really horrific makeup in this movie. This is the one I was looking for. This poor bastard. Do we know who the actor is that was played the photographer?
I don't know the actor.
Okay,
I know the girl that seduces him, Lisa Blount, and she went
Yep.
on to have a pretty significant role in Prince of Darkness.
Yes, she
Yeah.
did.
And she goes topless in this movie. I think the only bare breast.
The only boobies we get to see.
Right in the opening, though.
Well, that's the format of the 80s.
Right.
Introduction, montage, boobs.
And there's something about the way that they wrap him in that net and the way they push his face around that's really disturbing.
Because you can see the net, you know, pushing his skin down. And it's just, you can tell it's tight. It's not comfortable.
Right.
And then even the scene where the guy walks up with the gas can and he's just grinning, and I don't even remember what he's saying, but it's like, oh shit, this guy's fucked.
Yeah. And then we're getting into spoiler territory.
Yeah, well, yeah. All the deaths are gruesome.
Well, the one that still gets me, and it's such a simple effect, but I guess it feels almost like they didn't need to do it, and that's why it's impressive. And that's the head that's wrapped in the bandage, which is the guy that gets burned later. He survives. Okay. And
this guy,
fake, right? That eye and those teeth are fake.
I never knew they were
in bandages.
Here's the hot chick. I can't get over the needle to the eye. That's why the makeup effects get me so much. I'm totally believing that there's a guy that they put into this bandage costume, and she's putting this needle really close to the eye, and I'm just like, ugh. I mean, I don't like eye trauma at all anyway, but you know, thinking that there's a real person in there, that was terrifying for me. That was the cringe.
Every time I see that scene, even though I've even watched a complete breakdown on how they did the effects, it still gets me. It's just such a long deal. And then the guy's been through so much. It's terrible. You know?
He's the only one that gets fucked up, lives, and then thinks he's going to be nursed back to health, only to get fucked up again.
Right. And I've been like, I feel for him too, because I'm like, he probably doesn't want to get nursed back to health, but he doesn't want to have a needle shoved in his eye. I'd be like, oh, kill me, please. But not like this.
Not like that.
Yeah.
Any other way is cool.
Right.
Yeah, I can remember the scene where the nurse first walked in, and all you could see is that guy's eye, and it just goes wide because he knows.
Right.
But the sheriff and the other person that came in the room, they have no clue.
And it's not his eye. It's a prosthetic eye. And they're doing a close up of it, and you buy it. And it's almost like the why would you do it that way? It seems like a lot more time consuming. I guess just for the shot, that full shot, huh? Where she stabs in like that is the reason.
You know, if you start out with the fake head and you can sell it as there's really somebody in there, then the rest of the effect is easy to pull off because now you're not taking an actor out of that bed to put the dummy wrapped up. And then you got to make sure all your creases line up because there's always some film asshole that's going to go, oh, I can tell where you did this cut because, you know, the pillow doesn't match.
Yeah.
I didn't say you. Why did you say you?
Because I was watching Zombie 3 the other day and I was just like, seam. So
film Nazi.
So let's just spoil it right out the gate. You know, this movie, it's about a sheriff. He's finding these horrific killings are going on to strangers. All the locals are coming together. And he ends up finding out that everyone in town is dead. Right?
Right.
And he's been resurrected via some voodoo ritual that's never really clearly stated. And then he finds out that he himself is dead on the case. And this is sort of the ending of the movie, which is why I think it makes for like a really good sort of EC Comics, Tales from the Crypt sort of episode. It requires some suspension of disbelief. This is definitely a make-believe story.
They don't try to explain any of it. I mean, it's a huge reveal. It's a really good reveal, but you know, along with the big plot holes, you know, you're left sitting there asking yourself questions. It's like, well, you know, I get it. It was voodoo, but how does that really translate into physically keeping these people looking like they're alive, even though, you know, when they were dead, they have missing chunks of face and stuff.
Right.
You know, I want to say modern technique of what a undertaker would do, you know, the mortuary would do to restore somebody. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. It's done just so that you can see them in an open casket without knowing that half their face is gone. So, yeah.
But if they were to get up and start emoting, that stuff will just break and fall off.
Exactly. And then you got modern day zombie right there. So, and the other thing is, it's like, me personally, I always equate reanimating a body with a zombie, but these aren't zombies. They're not eating anybody. And they act totally normal, but they're not. They're alive, but they're dead.
Right.
You know, so let's go back. Here's one of the plot holes. The people that go in to see the doctor. What's the doctor really doing?
He's putting
no heartbeat.
He's putting putty on their hands. He's putting putty.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you rewatch the movie, there's tons of scenes where the sheriff is like scratching his hands and scratches his face because the putty, he doesn't know it's there, which is kind of ridiculous too. I mean, the more
because it would leave a scratch mark.
Yeah. Or even he must shower, right? Wouldn't his dick fall off?
Doesn't the makeup come off?
Yeah. Or maybe not, because he was but the poor guy that was burned like that, all of his parts got to be falling off.
You know, and that's a good spoiler right there. You know, we spend most of the movie with the subplot of the sheriff thinking his wife is cheating on him. You know, and we find out that's not the case. She's out killing these tourists and not cheating on him, but she's the one that fucking killed him. So that's kind of a weird little twist.
Right. And then it goes on, you know, because it seems like she's been meeting with Dobbs, the mortician, behind the sheriff's back as well. And I think that they're doing this to appease her, to make her feel like her life's a little more normal for some reason.
Really? Well, yeah, I could see that.
Even that Dobbs mentions about when his wife first came to him and how special she was, and that's why she went through some special thing. And then when she decided to kill her husband, I think that we're going to go ahead and let the sheriff find out on his own. It still doesn't make sense either, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. This
But I
is
mean,
one of the many issues. If you need a movie that makes complete sense and is explained, this isn't it.
just skip it. Yeah. But
This
if you
this
want
really
something
is a Tales
just
from the
like a Tales
Crypt.
from the Crypt episode, and screw
Yeah,
it. These zombies are just trying to work on like a retirement plan or just a way to chill out.
retirement
We need a
plan.
milkman. We need someone to deliver the milk. We need people to, run the auto shop. I'm not doing this stuff anymore. I'm dead. I'm retiring. Let's get some strangers in town. We'll kill them and give them a job. Anything else you wanted to add about the film?
No, I've covered about everything I can think of. I'm good. Let's go into that 4K release.
Sure. So I did pick up the 4K release. This is from Blue Underground. This is the collector's edition. It's still available. Has a really cool lenticular cover, and that's the poor guy we're talking about. He gets netted and set ablaze, and then they find him later, and he looks like that.
Ooh,
Thanks to Stan Winston.
that's a bad way to go.
From the creators,
Even though that didn't kill him.
and that's something I never mentioned, is that so when this movie was released, Dan O'Bannon saw the final cut of the film and actually demanded that his name get taken off the credits, because he said that Robert Chassette didn't use any of his ideas, and was claiming that he only was using his name on the film so they could put that up there, from the creators of Alien. Yeah. This is loaded with bonus features. It has 4 different audio commentaries.
I'm gonna have to get that then.
Yeah. Might want to get the standard version. You're going to save some money.
Yeah. Well, I don't need the soundtrack, so I'll just, as long as the standard is an upgrade in quality and letterbox, it'd be worth it.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in.